Hey, what is up you guys? Erica here from High 49RC. Hope you all are doing fantastic this fine, well for me, rainy morning. Today I want to finally get back on the splash build, and I think today is going to be the final build video in terms of just getting everything on here, ready to go. We got a lot to do today actually. We got to put the coolant tank back on, got to get the rear diff back in it. A couple other little bits and bobs. One of those things being installing this little cap on my coolant tank so I can actually fill it up decently. I also need to make a gasket for the coolant tank as well. This is like some rubber fiber gasket material that I picked up, so that should work out pretty well. I also got my thermometers and thermocouples in, so we'll need to find a place to mount these, and I also need to figure out how to seal up the thermocouple because a little nut on them is not actually like watertight onto the thermocouple itself. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that, but I may try and weld it. I might silicone it, find some sort of glue. I'm not sure yet, but for starters, I want to get my rear diff put back in. This is the differential that I put a needle bearing in the cup. If you want to see that video, go and check out the card, whichever corner it's in. That was pretty cool. Can't believe it actually worked, but it sure did. So without further ado, let's hop into a time lapse, get this rear diff put back in the slash. So I got my differential oil in there, I got my rear end all put back together and greased. Next thing I want to do is take our coolant tank, or the lid at least, out to the garage, get a hole drilled and tapped in the lid for our coolant tank cap, and then we can come back in and start making a gasket for it. I've got a 17/30 seconds drill bit chucked in the mill here, which is the correct size drill for a 5/8 11 tap. Well, that's a problem. Fuck, I guess this is not 5/8 11. I thought it was. That is very strange to me. Okay, so I guess it was not 5/8 11, it was actually 16/2. Oh well. Let's see if that cleaned out enough, because like they're super close in thread. Like I thought that it would have been 5/8 11. Like just by looking at it, like I compared the cap to the tap. I thought it was the right one. I guess it wasn't. Figured I already ruined it if it's not 16/2. Well, okay. That will work good enough. It's a little loose, but like it's not terrible. And it'll seal. So you know what? Screw it. That is good enough. Why though? Why can nothing be standard anymore? It drives me insane. Guys, the coolant tank is properly done now. This thing looks freaking sweet. It's got a gasket in there, got all the screws in around the top, got my cap in there as well. I like that it has a little cable here so I don't lose it when I'm out in the field and need to top off my coolant. I was able to screw that to one of the lid screws here. I used a servo screw and put a spacer under it so that it wasn't clamping down on the wire on top of the lid. So one, there's even pressure on the lid from the screw, but also so then this guy can swing around and go wherever it needs to. For those that didn't pick up on how the gaskets were being made, I made two extras. Essentially what I did was I took the lid and put it underneath the sheet of gasket material, laid the gasket material on top, took a ball peen hammer and hammered around the sharp edge, and that basically left an imprint on the back side, which I was then able to cut out with my X-Acto knife. Then I basically fitted this onto the lid, cut the outside out, and then again took the X-Acto, poked through each of the holes to make a little dot on the gasket material, and then used a leather punch to punch out the holes. The leather punch, I don't know where I heard that tip, but it is a fantastic one and it works so good. And it makes your gaskets look nice and clean. So with that, I am so happy with this. This thing looks just so freaking cool. Before we actually mount this onto the truck though, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do about my thermocouples, because as I mentioned, I need to figure out a way to seal them. You see, this little flare nut on here slides around, and I realized that the way it's supposed to work is that you're supposed to thread this into a blind hole, basically a hole that doesn't go all the way through to something, and it's just supposed to contact the material that you're trying to measure, and then this will cinch it up to the material. That's not what I'm trying to do though. So I need to either try to TIG weld this nut to the thermocouple, which I might do because I can get another thermocouple relatively inexpensively and just attach that to the little sensor, or the little, I don't even know what this is, the little LCD. Or I can try some sort of glue or epoxy or silicone or something of that nature to essentially get this to seal, because I want the tip of my thermocouple right in the coolant. I don't want it touching the side of the tank because it could be a little bit cooler depending on the ambient temperature. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna go have some lunch, brainstorm, and then I'll come back and we'll figure out what to do. Okay, so I have decided to try to TIG weld the little flare nut onto the thermocouple. I don't know how this is gonna go. It's probably not gonna work. I'm gonna go mess around with this one myself, and if it works, I'll bring you guys along on the second one. Guys, I did it. I actually did it. I actually did it. That's crazy. I actually welded this stupid tiny thing. Sorry, I'm a little out of focus because I'm excited. I actually welded that. And it's gonna be watertight. That's insane. All right, come on. Let's go outside and we'll do the other one. Okay, so here's what I've been doing. I have basically been taking and clamping the thermocouple in my vise, and then I tack it, just do like 1/6 of the rotation around it, and then I get a wet rag, cool it off, weld it again, cool it, weld it, cool it, weld it, cool it, so that I don't fry the wires on the inside and I don't get too much heat down here at the very tip of the thermocouple. I've been using stainless steel filler rod because this part of the thermocouple is stainless. The flare nut might also be as well, but I'm not sure. It might be zinc plated, but it seems like the stainless steel rod has been working well enough for me so far. Had to grind my tungsten because I dipped it. And rotate it. Second I'm about halfway there. I do see one little spot that I'm gonna have to go back and touch up. Looks like I should be able to get this finished in one more pass. Just take and dunk that straight in the water because that was a little bit of a long burn. Yeah, I do have a couple little spots to touch up, but I will do that off camera and show you guys in a moment. Not that you guys can see what I'm doing anyways right now, but hey, whatever. And there you have it. There's our second thermocouple, welded watertight. I'm pretty happy with it, surprised how well it went. Now we just got to go and give this a quick test inside, make sure we didn't cook it too much, and we can install it. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see. And our verdict is, hey, it's a success. We did it! Hell yeah! So we've got two functioning watertight thermocouples that I successfully welded solid that we can now put into our coolant tank. So there's still actually one more thing that we need to do regarding these thermocouples. This is not 1/8 inch NPT thread, which is what all my fittings are and what the holes in my coolant tank are threaded. This is M6 thread. So what I did was I got some just 1/8 inch NPT like port plugs. I'm just going to drill out the end, tap for M6, thread this in there with a little bit of thread tape or thread sealant, and then we should be good. So basically just making an adapter from M6 to 1/8 NPT. Alrighty, so I got my little thermocouple adapters made. I decided to go with O-rings because I want it to be at least serviceable. I mean, hey, I know it's still as hard as a Nissan to work on, but I at least want it to be serviceable. But, yeah, so if these fail, basically, I will probably go and try to make myself a felt gasket, or, like, use that gasket material I was talking about earlier, make some little donuts for these. I'll try that. But, with that said, I am finally ready to get all this stuff put together. I am so excited. This is seriously coming together so quick. I thought this would take a lot longer to get to this point, but here we are. Let's jump straight into it. Taken me a couple hours, but I'm finally done with all the plumbing. I've got my thermocouples in where they need to be, one in the tank, one up here in line just before the radiators. I've got the hoses routed, very snazzy looking. I'm a big fan of that, gotta say. I've got the spring loom stuff on it to make sure that it doesn't rub through or get pinched by the shocks there, as well as in other locations, such as here on my cold return hose. Because, you know, I don't want sticks and rocks and stuff getting all hooked up in there and tearing the line. That would be a bit of an issue. Now, my next problem here to deal with is I don't know what to do with these little LCD screens for the thermocouples. One option I had was to make a bracket that would hold them in such an orientation and have them sit right here in front of the rear shock tower, which is a really nice location, and I really like that. However, the issue is that the zipper for my heat generator goes right underneath that, and I would not be able to access it very easily if the LCDs were plopped on top of there, which is a shame, really big shame. And obviously we need the heat generator. That's a very important part of this build. The other option that I have is I can try and put them back here near the rear bumper. My issue with putting them near the rear bumper is while they look fantastic there and they fit just like they were meant to be, bumpers take impact and bumpers flex, and I don't want these things getting crushed. With that in mind, I'm not sure I'm going to put them here. The other place that I kind of thought about putting them is making some sort of like L-shaped bracket that would bolt onto the side of the chassis there and have them kind of perch like kind of either next to each other like this, or stack them on top of the motor sort of like that, or I don't know, something over here on this side where the battery is not going to be, where I can kind of put them over top of the cover a little bit. That is another good option. So I'm going to do some thinking on it, and I will come back and let you guys know. Morning, it's another day. I've done some thinking overnight about what I want to do with my LCDs, and I've decided to put them here just kind of inside the Nerf bars, or at least this Nerf bar. What is going to happen is I'm going to build an aluminum skid plate that's going to go underneath to protect the underside, and then of course there'll be a plate on top to mount them into, which basically then will make sure that there's no dirt, no crap, and such getting onto the bottom of these boards because they are exposed. Not a big fan of that, but hey, we'll make it work. Before I go outside and start making those aluminum parts, I need to solder my power wires onto the board solid and also my thermocouple. Reason being is that these terminals are literally taller than the board and LCD together, and that's just silly because I can save so much space if I just solder them solid. So I need to do that real quick before I get started, but then once that's done, we should be good to go. Alright guys, it took me a hot minute. It looks kind of ugly, but check this out. I managed to get my LCDs mounted down in the Nerf bar, which is actually completely encased in aluminum, as you can see, so it's got a nice skid plate there for protection. Took a bit of grinding and sanding of the Nerf bar itself to actually get everything to fit properly. Let me pop this off and I will show you. That is what the bottom looks like. So basically this will just cover that. As you can see, Nerf bar is all still there. I've got a bit of a wire relief cut in right there. It's decent. It's not amazing compared to the other work on this rig. I think it's a little bit subpar comparatively, but for all the angles and such that I had to deal with to get this to even fit, it's not too bad. Got all my wiring coming out just in the corner here, so I'll have to get these guys wired up. These are the power wires. I'm gonna switch my thermocouples, just like flip-flop them, because I like cut the bezel on these a little bit narrower, and so they can only really go in one orientation. So I want this display to go to that thermocouple and this display to go to that thermocouple, which, I mean, kind of logical, but I didn't really think about that very well, so I just gotta switch them. No big deal though, looks decent for now. I'm gonna stop rambling because I'm hungry, but next is gonna be wiring these up. Alright guys, it is finally time to get this thing filled up with coolant and give it its first test. Well, it's already been tested a couple times, I guess, at this point. But you guys know what I mean. It has been a long time coming, I feel like. I got my wiring all sorted out. I got my LCDs hooked up. I got my thermocouple wires arranged where I want them. I also put my rear limit straps back on because I had those off for one reason or another. Don't remember why. There we go. Battery is in. This thing is quite well balanced as well, I might add, which is really awesome. That's why I put my LCDs on this side, to keep balance. And I would say it is pretty freaking balanced. That way and front to back. It's a little bit front heavy, but like, it is almost perfect. So I think I've done a really good job making sure that my weight stays balanced. All right, here we go. My LCDs are working. Let's turn this guy on. Okay, great. Put some coolant in the tank. And I can see it coming up in my little sight glass pipe on my tank, which is perfect. And you know, I never did actually show you, but this little bit of hose right here, I don't think I ever explained it. This is my coolant level gauge. So check it out. If I tip it back, you can see the level changes. It's moving around in there. So that means I can have a completely opaque tank, not be able to see into it, and still have a way to tell how much coolant is in there. Okay, let's go with that. And here goes nothing, guys. Ha ha ha! Look at that. I don't see any leaks yet, which is good. Guys, this is crazy. Crazy, I tell you. My LCDs are working perfectly, displaying my temperatures. Ha ha ha! Guys, this is insane! Let's see, how good is my needle bearing looking? Hell yeah, you guys, this is crazy. My temperatures are quite accurate, or at least they are even with each other pretty much. The front is 73, the tank is about 73 as well. Guys, this is so cool. This is so freaking cool. Guys, talk about crazy. This is crazy right here. It is done. It is freaking done. I cannot believe it. What an elaborate mousetrap. And you can see there is actually about a degree difference between the hot side and the cold side. Cold side is indeed a little bit colder. 73.6 and 74.6. I don't think I could have asked for much better. Well, with that, you guys, this episode of the Splash build is done. We got so much accomplished today. This thing is just absolutely bonkers. I'm looking at it in the viewfinder and like, talk about an elaborate mousetrap. Like, this is just insane. We've got temperature sensors, coolant pump, radiators, we got hoses going every which way. Freaking custom machined billet coolant tank. This is so cool. This is way more than I ever thought that this crazy idea to build a water-cooled Traxxas Splash would ever turn into. All the support on this series has just been insane. I'm kind of rambling right now. I know, I'm sorry, but thank you for all the support. It's really just, it's amazing. If you know people that you think would enjoy this series, please share it with them. I just want to be able to share what I do with as many people as possible. Not because I necessarily want to show off what I'm doing, okay, partially, but mainly because I want to inspire other people to go out, build their crazy ideas, no matter how ludicrous they seem, but to get out there, do it, build stuff. And that is what I'm all about. So, thank you again so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy, please leave a big fat thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, comment down below. And as always, follow me on Instagram, support me on Patreon, join my Discord server, and become a member of the channel to support crazy projects just like this one. That's all I gotta say, you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.